All right, we are live now. I'll be going backstage.
Okay. Is Mr. Ogo there?
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the official discussion show of TFFDS. Like we all know, this is a place whereby we discuss it real. So, welcome to the town hall meeting where we'll be discussing systematic digital racism against Africans, and we have a lineup of guests. We have lineup of guests for this program. We have our distinguished guests. We have Professor Glad. We have Professor Annie Daniels. I don't know if she's here. She will quickly introduce herself when she's to speak. We have Paul. We have Mr. Paul. We have Professor Gladys.
Hello, I can't hear anything.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul, I can't hear anything, Glory.
Hello,
Okay, I can
everyone.
hear. Okay, yeah, I can hear you.
Segment.
Okay, okay.
Hello?
Okay. Hello, yeah, I can hear now.
Is someone supposed to be speaking?
I can't hear anything.
Who is supposed to be speaking?
Please, can the moderators help us address the issue?
Gotcha. Mhm.
Hello, is anybody on the line?
I think the moderators are still struggling with connectivity, but they seem to be trying to sort it out. So I think maybe if we are just a little bit patient.
All right, just that I can't see anyone. I can only see myself as well. All right, okay.
I'm not happy about these things. What is happening?
I can't hear you guys. Oh gosh. Hello, Mr. Moderator, Madam Moderator. What's actually happening? Is there any presentation going on that I can hear?
I'm speaking, but nobody is hearing me.
Wow.
I'm speaking, but nobody is hearing me.
Oh gosh.
That's not good.
Glory, we can hear you now. Maybe you can pick up from here.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yes.
My wife is listening in as an audience member. She says she can't hear anything either.
So, good evening, everyone. This is the technical support. I think the problem, we can hear everyone, but the speaker, I think, is having problem with his, having problem with the driver for his microphone, and we seems not to hear him. But for everyone, we can hear loud and clear. So I think we can proceed uh, from there.
Is anybody hearing me?
Yeah, I
Yes.
can hear you. I can hear you.
Yes.
We
Okay,
hear
sorry
you.
for the disturbances. I don't understand what is happening. I am talking and I'm seeing you people, but nobody is hearing me.
Oh, we hear you now.
We can hear you
We can
now.
hear
Okay.
you loud and clear now. Please
Please,
proceed.
Mr. Ogochukwu, can you take over now? Oh, your voice is having issues. Okay. Let's continue, please. We said that in the issue of systematic racism, whereby you will send them an imprompt to AI image creator and asking for Mother Teresa fighting poverty, and the image that the AI will generate for you will be a Mother Teresa fighting children that is blacks. The images were sent, and it was discouraging. And many things that have been happening in Google with all the Amazons, their materials and Googles and all AI image generating tools, we are giving us bad image, painting Africa black. So we decide to use this town hall to talk about this. What will African do and what is actually causing this? But before we start, we want each and every one of us to please, all my guest speakers, to please introduce yourself. Let's know you better before we start this African Town Hall meeting. Thank you very much. Can we start with you, Mr. Paul Spegel?
Yes, thank you. I am Paul Spiegel. I am an advisor to TAFFDS, And I'm an attorney in San Francisco, California. I do work in longevity issues and AI issues, and generally in transhumanist issues, which sort of encompasses all of that. And I'm very pleased to be invited to speak here today. I look forward to a great conversation.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Paul. Mr. Gabriel, can you please introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is Mr. Gabriel Asukwo. I'm a lecturer at Achieva University, Owo, Nigeria. I do work around African relational ontology, African philosophy, inclusive society, and multicultural society. And also I do work around political theory. So that is my specialty.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. My CEO, Ms. Blender, please can you please introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Brenda Ramgoteva. I'm the CEO of TAPS and also leading Afro Longevity, which is focusing on education and advocacy around longevity in Africa or for people of African descent across the world. My background is in risk management and governance. So topics like this are something that I take keen interest in. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Please, Sakeleshi, please, Deka, can you please introduce yourself? Hello, Sakeleshi, can you please introduce yourself, sir? It seems he's not here. Sakeleshi, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, please, can you introduce yourself to us before we start properly?
Okay, my name is Kelechi Deka. I'm a development journalist with special focus. Yeah, I said my name is Kelechi Deka.
Yeah, we are hearing you, sir. We are
a
hearing you.
development journalist with special focus on multilateral development institutions and development economy.
It's nice having you around, sir. Yeah, it's nice having you around. Can you please introduce yourself, Mr. Chizaba Okorie?
Okay, I am Chizoba Okore. I'm into philosophy, history, and information technology.
Hello, Mr. Chizaba, are you here, please?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Hello, Mr. Chizaba, are you here?
Can you hear me?
Yes, but speak louder.
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, if he is not here, please can Professor
hear me?
Annie Daniels, please can you introduce yourself?
Hello, can you hear me?
I hear you. I hear you.
Why is the moderator not hearing me? I don't know. The moderator, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. I hear you.
Okay, I am Chizabal Koro by name. I am into philosophy, history, and information technology, based in the States, but right now in the Caribbean. Thank you.
We seem to have lost the audio from the moderator again. So I would suggest that we continue with the introduction and then she can pick up from there.
Okay, all right. I
Whoever
think
had
we will
more
continue the introduction.
instance.
Believe you can hear me loud and clear. We'll continue introduction. I would love that Oji Amonu should please introduce yourself.
I think you were next. Or are
Okay,
you?
introduce yourself, ma'am, please. Please introduce yourself, ma'am.
Lagos. I said, I am Audi. I'm a lawyer residing in Nigeria.
You are very welcome, sir, but your voice was breaking. I could only hear your name. Please, is everybody hearing me?
Yes, I hear you.
Yes, I
I
hear
hear
you
you, ma'am.
clearly.
Okay.
I said, I am Audi.
Mr. Oji, we could only hear your name that you are a lawyer.
Yes, I'm a lawyer. I'm a legal
Okay.
practitioner.
Okay, sir. You are welcome, sir. Professor Gladys Bobby, please can you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Gladys Spaulding. I'm a lecturer at Georgia State
Okay.
University.
You are welcome to the show, sir.
I teach an array of
Mr.
students that.
Chizoba, can you still introduce?
Sorry,
Hello,
can you hear
ma'am?
me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah. So I'm Gladys
Yes.
Spaulding. Gladys Spaulding. I'm a lecturer at Georgia State University, where I teach an array of science courses, and I'm also the CEO of Biolog Laboratorium, where I offer authentic STEM applications to youth as well as consult with organizations and schools to help build their STEM program. Thank you for having me.
Wow, you are welcome, ma'am. Professor, who spoke now? Professor Gladys or Annie? Which of them introduced themselves now?
I just finished. So I think Professor Anno is next.
Okay, Professor Anna, please, can you please introduce yourself? I'm not seeing her here. She's not here. Professor Anna is not here. Professor Annie is not here. I guess I have to send her. I thought that the link is oh gosh. Okay. I will send her the link again. It's like she's telling me something and I couldn't see it on time. All right, let's continue. Sir, Mr. Paul, can you please tell us your what you understand perfectly as digital racism against Africa from your own perspective? What do you really understand by digital racism against Africa? What can you say without any of our questions now? What can you say is actually the problem of digital racism in Africa?
Paul, you're on mute. You're on mute, Paul.
Yeah, I'm talking to Mr. Paul.
I can't hear
Mr.
him.
Paul,
So,
you are
Paul,
muted. You're muted.
you are mute. Please, can you unmute from your
Unmute.
side?
Paul,
Please
unmute.
unmute. We can't hear you. We see your mouth move, but we can hear you. Please, can you unmute?
You're on mute, Paul.
We can't hear you. Please, can you unmute?
Oh, does he?
Mr. Paul, please unmute. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Unmute your mic.
Yes,
Remove
I
the
am so
remove
sorry.
the speaker from your mic so that
We've
yeah,
got it now.
thank you.
I lost the window, I'm afraid. I couldn't find it. Please forgive me. Yes, so would you repeat the question again? I've been too busy running tech support here. What is digital racism in Africa? I'm sorry, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I said to you.
Would you repeat the question for me, please? I'm afraid I got...
Hello, Mr. Paul.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to repeat it for you. I said to you that what do you understand by the term digital resistance against Africa in your own language, in your own understanding?
Yes, thank you. That's a complicated question. I don't think there really is a definition of it at the present time, and it has a lot of layers that we have to consider. One of them may be allocating proper bandwidth to signals that come from the African continent and for information that is going to the African continent. That is not an overt form of racism. I think it's that people have traditionally sort of, forgive me, forgotten Africa, and they don't take it as seriously as they take, say, Europe or China or something like that. That's a quiet kind of racism where you just don't pay enough attention to somebody. There is also a more overt form of racism, which very unfortunately derives from a time, say, 20 years ago, when a lot of online scams, fraud basically, came out of Africa, particularly out of Nigeria. Now, obviously, I'm not making any negative comments about anybody in Nigeria. I have a lot of good friends there, including some of you. But the world itself became connected to the idea of a Nigerian email scam. And that did not do good things for the reputation of Africa in the context of, credibility. I have to say today, when I get a Nigerian email, my first thought, even 20 years later, is this legitimate? And I'm a little ashamed of that, considering they get quite a few emails these days from people in West Africa. But that is the history of it. A third one involves AI, specifically that AI is being trained on effectively a white male data set. Not exclusively, not entirely, but that's a lot of what the AI is getting. And, you know, if this is what you feed it, this is what you'll get. So it's difficult exactly to describe what is digital racism in one phrase or one word, or even in, 10 minutes. It's a complex situation, but we are dealing with it.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you very much, Mr. Paul. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, Sir Kelechi Deka, please can you please tell us in your own understanding what you understand by digital racism against Africa? Hello, Sir Kelechi, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can
Hello,
hear you.
Dr.
Please
Kelechi, are
proceed.
you there?
Yes, we can hear you. Please
I said,
proceed.
Okay. Thank you
okay,
so much for this opportunity. First and foremost,
we can hear you.
we have to yeah, yeah. it- Hello.
We can hear you.
Okay.
We can hear you, sir.
As I was saying, I like the perspective that Mr. Paul brought to the discourse. First and foremost, when you talk about digital racism, you also have to look at the issue of technology. Yeah, you have to look at the issue of technology because it did not just fall from nothing. It's a source of someone's intelligence. So if someone is inventing something or someone is coming up with an idea in technology, what it means is that whatever individual or personal idiosyncrasies that the person is encumbered with, that person will automatically transfer it into his or her creation. And the issue of racism, or the issue of segregation, or the issue of perception, or the issue of we against them, the otherness, are also some of the things that are incorporated into that creation. And if you're from Africa, whereby you are within the bottom of the pyramid of the consumption scale, global consumption scale, it means that those who are in charge of this production and in charge of this manufacturing and in charge of this ideation, challenges, whatever issues they have with their perception of other people are incorporated in what they produce. And when these things are out in the market, they kind of transfer it into the products, and the products kind of relay whatever bias they have. And you have to also understand the fact that there are also implicit bias. Some of these things are done without even knowing that what they are doing has negative connotations, because some of these things come to them is unconscious bias. It comes to them naturally because that is the way they've been living their life. That's the way they've been acting. So you find a situation whereby Africa is being left out, where some of these things are being decided and created, and they do it without knowing that Africa is part of the equation. So when these things come to the market, we see it that yes, this is the digital racism, because the creators of this technology did not take us into consideration, because they created from their own perspective, from their own experiential knowledge, and from the things they've already ingrained in them. So when it comes out, it becomes a form of digital racism, because a large majority of Africans and the black population, sometimes when we talk about black population, even within America, these people are not Africans, they are Americans.
Wow, 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 we lost him. Hey, that's, thank you very much. Are you still hearing him? I believe, is it me that is not hearing him again?
I think we lost him. What We'll proceed to the next
Is anybody
question
still
because
hearing Sakalechi
I
still
think
speaking?
Thank you.
no, we can't hear him anymore. So we'll proceed to the next speaker. I would like to ask Mr. Chibuzo
Let's
if truly there
continue.
is.
So
All right. Would like to ask Mr. Shibuzo the next question to actually get his line of thoughts. I believe Mr. Shibuzo can hear us now. The question is, can you can you briefly speak on what you understand by digital racism against Africa, if truly you believe on that statement? If there is actually something like a digital racism against Africans, if truly it is, Mr. Shibuzo, can you please tell us what you understand by it?
Um, I think
Please,
that
can you speak up a little louder? Your voice is kind
I
of down.
okay. I think that you are referring to me, but I am not Chibozo. My name is not Chibozo. I
Shizoba,
am
sorry. Oh, so sorry
oh,
about that. Shizoba. Sorry, maybe I heard Shibuzo recently. That's why Shibuzo stayed in my head. Mr. Shizoba, please proceed.
okay. So first and foremost, using the term digital racism uh, is very problematic, because you cannot treat the part without treating the whole. So when you say digital, you are only treating uh, the consequence and then leaving out the antecedent. So you cannot use the word digital. There was something before digital. There was something uh, which was in existence before uh, um, the era of computer, the era of digital life came in. So you cannot treat that without going back to the source of such digital racism or systemic digital racism. So what I'm trying to say is that when you use the word digital, you are limiting the systemic racism. You are
Sir,
putting a
please,
limit.
if you can hear me very well, can you take your microphone close to your mouth a little? I discovered that you are using an earpiece. The mic, you are using an earpiece. Can you take the microphone close to your mouth a little so we can hear you better?
Can you hear me now?
Take the mic close to your mouth a little. It's kind of distance, so your voice is faint. The microphone on your neck, on your earpiece rather.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, I think this is the mic by the side.
Can you hear me now?
A lot better, yes. Please speak. Continue.
I was saying digital
Yes, we can hear
racism.
you. We can hear you a lot better now. Please continue. Continue, please.
Okay, thank you. We cannot treat digital racism without treating the antecedent of such racism. So talking about digital racism is a limitation to the whole. That is why I said you cannot treat the part without treating the whole. So something led to digital racism. Someone, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, said something similar to that, something nearer to that. When you say Africans, you are also putting a limit um, to to what is going on, because the word Africans has a limit. Because when you say Africans, there are other people who are melanated, who have melanin, who are carbon people in the world who are not Africans. There are people, let me use the word black. I don't really like using that word, but let me use the word black, because we are not black people. We are more brown than black. So when you say Africans is a limitation. So people in the South America, they are also black people. People in the North America, they are also black people. People in Central America, people in India. There are black people in India. There are black people in China. There are black people all over the places in Palestine. There are black people all over the places. Now, when you use the word Africans, we are trying to say that the digital racism is only against the African people. which is not true. So it is against the black people all over the world, not just Africans. So what digital racism mean to me is nothing but oppression and subjugation of a certain a group of people, you know, trying to hinder them from knowing who they are, that is having self-knowledge, and as we're trying to block off something. What do this digital racism tend to achieve? It tends to achieve the the I mean, it just tends to achieve, they don't want the African people or the black people, so to say, to know who they are. Why? Because when you go back to the history, when you go back to history, you know, you cannot deal with this case without going back to history. When we go back to history, you will see where everything started. Everything started in the 18th century when the Romans and the Greeks, when they came to Africa, the first set of educated Europeans studied in Africa. They studied in Africa. The first set mentioned them Socrates, Thales. Even Thales was even a black man. Today they paint him white because Thales was from Phoenicia. Thales was a Phoenician. So and Phoenicians were black people. Today they are white. You see, so we have to go back to history. We have to go back in antiquity to know where everything started from, and that is the reason why we cannot be able to achieve the aim of what we are doing without going back in history. People are always afraid of going back to history
All right.
because
I think. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your. I think we lost you. So thank you very much for your.
Is it me that's not hearing? What is happening now?
hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
I don't know, something happened and the network cut.
Okay, you can finish your thoughts. I think you are in
Okay,
the
okay, let
process
me
of delivering something. Yeah.
yeah, let me just round up. Let me just round up, please. So the essence of what I am trying to say is that we cannot treat um, a symptom without treating the cause of that symptom. Eh, for us to treat digital racism, which is okay, which is quite all right, it's quite beautiful to talk about it, but there is something that is antecedental to it. We must go back in antiquity to see how where everything started, where the subjugation and the oppression of anything we have to go back in antiquity. And that started from, can you hear me, please?
Proceed. We're hearing you.
That started from when the first set of educated Europeans came to what we know today as Africa, because the African continent, the continent of things is an European concept. We didn't have continent at that time, so the concept of continent was an European idea. So when this set of Europeans, the Greeks, when they came to Africa, they studied in Africa. The Thales, which was a black man, today painted white, all of them, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, all of them studied in Africa, and they became jealous of Africa. The black people, that they called us Ethiopians. You know, today when people talk about Ethiopians, they don't understand what that word Ethiopians means. It is a Greek word which means people burnt of face. So they were jealous of these people, and that is the beginning of subjugation of the black people, which was heightened, skyrocketed in the 18th century by Germans and the English people. G.W.F. Hegel championed it. G.W.F. Hegel championed it. He championed the digital, the historical, the academic, the educational subjugation and racism of, because it is a shame to them to accept that what they know was gotten from Africa. Is a shame to them, and that is why they have tried to hide it till this 2024 for over so many years now. And this is the reason why you see a black person telling us that his ancestors did nothing. And this is why it started, because we have been brainwashed through European school system that our ancestors were cannibals, where our ancestors were this and we are that, evil. And that is what our children today have been taught in schools. And that's why we hate ourselves. And that's why we are submitting to the racism. You know, you see a black person fighting each other because of the self-hate caused by the digital and the offline and the historical or the philosophical or the religious subjugation and the oppression of black people all over the world. So we have to tackle the issue from the beginning. So for us to achieve our aim in knowing what digital racism is, I've given an example of digital racism. Go to Google right now and type Thales, the image of Thales, What you will see is a picture of a white man. Thales was Phoenicians. Phoenicians were black people. Caucasians were black people. Chaldeans were black people. Go to Google and see.
Okay.
Google it
thank
now.
you very
You
much.
see the picture, all of these names now, like Thales. You see his. I'm just using him because Thales was the first known, according to the Greek history. Thales was the first known educated Greek man, even though he wasn't Greek. But during the Greek Empire, they captured, they had to conquer Phoenicia and put Phoenicia into Greek Empire. That's why people that's why they say that Phoenicians were Greeks, because the Phoenicia was conquered and was grouped into Greek Empire. So let us go back and see, or go to the Google and see what they have done because of the hate, because they don't want us to know who we are. Once you know who you are as a black man, that your ancestor is the foundation of everything. There is no, for example, there is no European civilization. Show me one. Can you show me one European civilization? Everything started from us. Everything Europeans are doing today was done. It's either the blueprint is coming from Africa, or the blueprint was patented from the stolen blueprint, from the ancient stolen blueprint in Africa. So there's no European civilization. Everything they are doing today, everything they do today is from Africa. The phone we built today, the phone we are using today, the internet, the computer, everything, we are Africans, but that has been hidden from us, for us not to know who we are. I heard when Paul Spiegel talked about Nigerians and scam. When you talk about scam, the word scam is an English word.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much, Mr.
Before we
Thank you
know
so
that
much,
there are, before
Mr.
we started hearing that
Thank you so much, Mr. Shizoba. Thank you so very much. I would like to hear the thoughts of would like to hear the thoughts of Amu, Barrister Ama Oji. Please, what is your thought on the subject on the subject we are currently discussing? What is your thought, please?
Okay, can you guys hear me? Good evening from
Yes, we
here.
can hear you loud and clear. Please proceed.
Okay. I'm not someone who I don't like being a victim, and I'm only going to talk about how African can make progress. Let me tell you, racism or racial prejudice, or let me say racism, because racial prejudice is narrower than racism. Racism is broader. Racism has been defined as belief, attitude, institutional agreement, and act that tend to degenerate individuals and groups because of phenotypic characteristics or ethnic group affiliations. And it is broader than concept of racial prejudice that has to just do with beliefs and attitudes, and racial discrimination that has to do with institutional agreement and behavior. So racism, when we have in Africa, what we have, we might not really call it racism because we are the same race, but we have tribalism. We have tribalism even in Africa. We have tribal prejudice among Africans. If you go to Europe, you also have, there is a form of prejudice between some races, some countries, and it's human. I must tell you, it's human. And racism has to do with is a byproduct of history. Even the countries, most of the countries, the US, the United Kingdom, these are the countries that produce the apps that we use. The Facebook, the headquarter was produced by, innovated by an American. And most of the people working there are Americans. And of course, you will get to have Americans, people who still have the flair for racism. The same thing, the owner of Twitter. And when we come to Nigeria, it's not as if we don't have it. We just want to blame is the white stuff. We have racial, tribal differences among different tribes. There are some people that can never marry from another tribe. So this thing is human. It's human, and it has to do with lack of exposure and the myopic aspect of some human beings. Some people are still very myopic. Some people still believe that Africa, when you ask somebody about Africa, they just believe that Africa is a country. It's lack of education. They believe that Africa is a country. All these things are misconception, and they are wrong beliefs. Even in among ourselves, even as Africans, we show prejudice, we show differences, tribal differences to each other. So I don't want us to take it as a victim. I don't want us to play a victim card here. Yes, I don't want us to play a victim card. So, but what I want us to do is, yes, I'm coming. What I want us to do is, what can we do? Most of how many apps, how many internet platforms like Facebook apps, how many of them are owned by blacks? Let me just tell you, give you guys run down to the memory lane. There was a time we didn't have Nollywood. Africans did not have anywhere to tell their stories. People were telling our stories. The white man, of course, they will tell you their story, the story of Africa. Until China Achebe wrote his book, Things Fall Apart. From there, people start telling stories of Africa. We have Nollywood, and I so much appreciate Nollywood. Is one of the best things that have ever happened to Africa, and it came out from Nigeria. We use that channel to tell our stories. We didn't go to Hollywood. We want to belong to Hollywood. Currently, as I had, Nollywood is rated second largest movie platform in the whole world after Bollywood. Apart from there, when everybody was running about hip hop and everything, we have Afrobeat now. Afrobeat is beating hip hop. You have the last Ballon d'Or. A hip hop artist was called Rema to come and perform. We have a lot of events that hip hop Nigerian artists and some South African artists have performed ahead of the American artists. The same thing when there's what we call passive racism. It happened during the Nations Cup. Those of us that like watching football, we were complaining, why is that Go.com, Sky Sports, all this, we are not talking about the AFCON, the way our own local media talk about Euro or Copa America. But I told them, look, and it's happened. When the game started, African news, we started talking about it. Before you know it, other African, other European platform, American platform, and nobody give a fuck whether they carried it or not. But we enjoyed our AFCON.
Wow. So thank you very much, Mr. Barrister.
Yeah.
If we have to talk about racism, we would live here today because it's both emotional at the same time. It's both emotional at the same time. We must be intelligent while discussing about. We must, if we are to play into the hands of our emotions, we have a lot to say, right? Let's not just end there. Let's hear the perspective of our beloved Professor Annie. Why? Give us your perspective. Tell us from your wealth of experience and knowledge the subject of that discussion. What do you understand? If there is, what is digital racism? And if there is digital racism against Africa, please, in 5 minutes, let's not talk much. In 5 minutes, give us your thoughts. Please unmute yourself. You are muted.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for inviting me, and it's been an interesting conversation. I would say know that it exists and move forward. And I think that's the only way that you can grow and develop and do what you need to do. We all know racism exists, and it's probably going to exist long after we've left this earth. I would say some of the things that we do here, we work with the legislature, we work with the government, we put policies and laws in place to combat and to curtail some of the racism. And it's not going to all go away. And in my time here on the earth, I've seen a lot. I lived through the Jim Crow era here in the United States, where we were second-class citizens, much like South Africa and the apartheid system. We had a system similar to the apartheid system, if not exactly like it here in the United States. So I would say identify what the issues are, work together. You have to unite. You can't be bickering amongst yourselves. You have to have unity. You have to have a coalition of people with the same thought and the same views that's going to work together to conquer those systemic racist barriers that might be in place. And I would say identify what it is that you want to do. My research looking at coded biases, they're in place, but we have acknowledged that that's in place. And some companies have even decided to halt and stop using systems to identify people. So I would say that that's the first step. We have to be in the room. We have to be at the table. We have to be part of the development. We have to be part of the research. More people of color need to be in the room when the development of software is being created. If we're not, then we don't have a voice and things are developed. And there's nobody to say, your technology, the face recognition software, is not working for Black people because our skin tone is different. And it probably recognizes all dark skinned Black people as the same people. So anybody that goes to a facial recognition with a dark skin, they're looking for a criminal, then that person can be charged for a crime that they did not commit. So we want to be sure that we're at the table, our voices are heard, and we unite together as a people, whether we're here in America or we're across in any country in the world as a Black person, find other Black people, unite with those people, have union, have talk, you know, and talk about the issues. Talk about the issues that are targeted towards Black people. I'm not so sure that there is a systemic biasness or racism, but I do know that the technology was developed without Black people, and it Black people having a real voice. I recently saw a report about a young man who they used facial recognition on. He was arrested for a crime that he did not commit. And being a Black person, when you look at the pictures, you automatically say, he looks nothing like that picture. But he was arrested. And during the time he was arrested, he lost his job because he was incarcerated, and he lost custody of his children. So his whole life was disrupted because of a software. So I think corporations and law officials that use that kind of technology need to not just use that technology, but use it as one of many tools that they use to identify criminals, and try to include Black people in the planning, research, and development of software, especially when it comes to something like currently AI is very popular now, as well as facial recognition. So, and facial recognition has been around for a while, because if you have a Google photo album, you know that Google recognizes your picture as soon as you upload it and attach your name to it. So something as simple as that lets you know that there's a new technology on the way. When I did my dissertation was, I was looking at deviant behavior using technology. And one of the things that I realized as I was going through doing my research for my dissertation, I realized that crime and um, um, any other aspects of our current life is altered by technology, and it's just another tool that is used to do the work that needs to be done. So
Wow.
unite, put, if this is happening there with the using technology, put laws, policies in place. People unite, talk about what's going on, and stay focused. Um, Educate the young, starting here in the US. We have girls that code, boys that code. We have coding camps. We're trying to get students involved and interested in technology. So I would say those young people, you need to have a pipeline going into your technology development and research. So introduce that to young children early on so that you can have a pipeline and have you have to come together as a community to solve problems. And I don't want to ramble on, but
Thank
basically
you
that's
very
what I
much.
would
Wow.
Yeah,
Prof,
wow. Thank you very much.
Prof,
You,
I think moderator, Prof, I have just a follow-up question to what you just said. You talked about three variables sit at the table, right? And in unite, we have to solve this racial problem when it comes to technology. And you hinted largely at the issue of racial recognition and others. So my question now becomes, how do we get a seat at the table that will enable us to make laws that are a standard with giving more opportunities for blacks? Like you mentioned in the US, there will be opportunities for black kids to do coding and others. So how do you extend it down here to African children or children here in Africa to actually from the limitations around them to get a seat at the table and to be able to unite with their counterparts in US and other Western countries in order to solve this systemic racial problem with regard to technology. Thank you.
Mhm, mhm. Yes. Yes, I understand. There's just challenges that I'm sure that has to be overcome. But those challenges can become easier challenges if you work together and unite and do those things as a group or coalition of people. So I say that because I recently started a national organization for Black veterinarians because I saw, and sometimes you can be in the room at the table and people don't say anything. So hopefully, whoever's in that room when that technology is being developed, and if they are Black, they will say something um, to include, make sure it's an inclusive technology, and Black people are represented and they're not excluded and there's no biases within the technology itself. I really think sometimes people are just so ignorant until they don't realize what's going on or what they're doing. So I do always start off by giving them the benefit of the doubt, and then once you do that and they continue on, then you know that it's something much deeper happening, that racism is an issue, and developing a software that may discriminate against other people, Black people, or any people of color, needs to be addressed.
all right. So thank you so very much. That's a brief one. We'll come back to you again. But quickly, we want to hear the thoughts of Professor Gladys. The subject on that discussion, digital racism. What is your thoughts?
Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna turn my camera off, but hello everyone, I'm here because I don't want to lose connection. But what I would like to say is I do believe that systemic racism does exist, and I'm not saying it may not be overt. However, I truly believe that it does exist, and I believe that when it comes to digital racism, you're talking about bias towards a particular towards ethnic groups, and in this case, we're talking about people of color in the digital space, and it has a tendency to manifest itself in many ways. Let's say, for example, let's take healthcare. Okay, so when you have these biased algorithms, that could lead to disparities in medical diagnosis as well as treatment. Now there's this new genetic technology that's out called CRISPR. And what it is it's expected to revolutionize medicine, and more than likely it will. And it just so happened that the disease that they decided to do the research on is sickle cell anemia. So we're going to benefit from this, and there are people who are already benefiting from this who have sickle cell disease because of the fact that it was because there's only one gene involved. It was the easiest medical disorder to address. Okay, so this is a technology that helps to treat people who have genetic disorders. So in this case, we as people of color, we're benefiting from this because there was only one gene involved. However, let's say if there's a person of color that has a genetic condition and it involves more than one gene, we may not have the opportunity to benefit because we are not represented, because we are not usually asked to participate in research studies. And it's not just that we're not asked, and I don't think that it's anything overt, but people have a tendency to really look for people who look like them. That's just the reality of it. However, like I said, in this particular case, we are benefiting, but this is something is we need to make an effort as well to participate in research. A lot of times, a lot of us just don't know, okay? But we need to be aware that in order for us to benefit from, let's say in this case, CRISPR, we have to, participate in clinical trials if we have some type of genetic disorder. So that's one thing. So that's like twofold. Another thing is when it comes to the justice system, okay, they have this risk assessment tool called COMPAS. That's an acronym. It's COMPAS. So it's some type of correctional offender management profile for alternative sanctions. Now, that particular risk management tool, it has misclassified almost twice as many Black defendants, which is about 45%, as higher risk compared to white defendants. And then also mistakenly labeled more white defendants as low risk, who then went on to reoffend, okay, 48% of the time. So it has a tendency to classify Black defendants as even higher risk when all other variables such as prior crimes, age, and gender were controlled. So 77% more likely, Black people are more likely than whites to actually, repeat, some type of crime or something like that. So there is an issue, but like I said, I'm not so sure that it is overtly, I don't think it's overt. Sometimes in some cases it may be, but I think that most people have a tendency to go for people who look like them. But I think that, when you are the minority and you are the one being affected, I think that you have a broader perspective. So you're going to be more inclusive. That's just what I think. But I do believe systemic racism does exist. And another thing is when it comes to employment opportunities, okay, Amazon had this automated recruitment system where, okay, so we know that people of color are underrepresented in STEM. That's science, technology, engineering, and math, okay? But they had this automated recruitment system which would actually look at the applicants and try to choose the best role for them. And they found that in most cases there was bias there because the tool was basing STEM on males. So therefore, females were not even selected because they were using, historical data. And if you look at historical data, it's mostly males that are represented in science, technology, engineering, and math. So I think that a lot of these things have to be tweaked. And I think, like, someone was saying, we have to be at the table and we also have to be inventors. That's another thing, because let's say if we invent something where we're inclusive, then when you compare it to someone else's who's not, then yours will more likely get the attention of saying this is more accurate. So we have to be, at the table. We also have to be the creators of these different, platforms so that we can, be represented as well as everyone else. So, I'm just going to leave it right there for now, but that's what I wanted to mention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor
Right.
Gladys Body. I have something to say. I want to ask. Um, because if I get it correctly, talk about not just being at the table, but being at the seat. Not just having a seat at the table, but being at the head of the seat at the table. Not just trying to get it, but people being the inventors and innovators of technology. But I want to ask this question because I said, looking forward, Professor, what are the key challenges and opportunities you think that we are going to face in dismantling this racial bias against Africa? And because these challenges are what prevent some of us, of Africans who want to actually be innovators and inventors from accessing either they needed funding or they needed resources to actually expand their ideas. So, what do you think, in your opinion, are the key challenges and opportunities to harness and challenges to overcome in dismantling this systemic racial bias?
I think I heard the first part when you said, what are the key challenges to what? I'm sorry, I missed that end part. I couldn't hear you clearly.
Okay.
Okay, let me just say this. If I think I heard correctly, some of the challenges I think that we face as people is the fact that we don't have access. Okay, so and then another thing is we don't have representation. And when you don't have representation, then more than likely, like I said, you're not going to be selected. Okay, because like I said, people sometimes have tunnel vision. That's just the reality of it. So I think also, so basically representation. I also think access. Okay, so when your money is limited, when you don't have access to finances, because that's another thing that is affected when you have these biases, because of the fact that they also did a study where they showed that individuals who wanted to, especially people of color who wanted to purchase homes, okay, the algorithm or that was determining whether a person could purchase something or receive credit or something, it was the same as the loan officer. So that means, and so basically what they found was that they were using historical data when people of color could not even purchase a house. So they're using something from many years ago, and this is 2024, okay, where, I know we have a long way to go, but we have come a long way. And many of us can afford to purchase a home. So right there, that's showing you that there's bias in that algorithm. So that's why I said we definitely need representation. So we have to be there so that we can be inclusive. And also, because let me tell you, as a professor in a college, I also, tell my students how important it is for them to fill out surveys or give voice. I said, because otherwise they don't know that you exist. So this is something that I share with my students. And then again, like I said, access. And I tell them, let me tell you something. Money is not everything, but it's like oxygen and you need it. Okay. So I tell them, you go for the money, but then you let that pay for your passion, because that's the reality of it. That's just a society that we live in. You got to have money in order to do the things you want to do and to live a comfortable life. So I hope I answered your question.
Yes, Professor. Thank you so much. Okay, I move directly to back to Mr. Spiegel. Well, Spiegel, you rightly hinted that the different ways to solve this problem, which you mentioned ignoring it. But I want to direct, even though it may not be similar to you, what role do you think major tech companies like Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple, what role do you think they can play in addressing this issue of systematic
I'm
racism
I'm
against
sorry.
Africans?
I can't understand what you're saying. I'm sorry.
Neither can I, really.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure. Okay, I'm sorry. Can you let me see.
Okay.
I just can't understand the question. Anybody
All right.
understand the question?
The
I'm so
question
sorry
is
about
related
that.
to Dr. Spiegel. I said, even though it's South Africa, I said, what major role do you think tech companies, the tech companies like if you have Google, you have Facebook, Amazon, and the like, what role do you think they can play to address this systematic racism against Africans? Instead, when it comes to the AI and technology was because that was encoding and building the AI. So, what major role do you think they can play in addressing this issue?
All right, is that one for me?
Yes.
That's a difficult one. Is when I say, what role do they play? It's what role they perceive to be playing. They're big, powerful corporations that tend to do things their own way. I had a brief chat on Friday with an old friend who was the CEO of Google. He's no longer. And he's very upfront that people are out there and they're motivated by money. They're not social services organizations, although they do have certain aspects of that. That's not really their primary their primary raison d'être. They are there to make money in one fashion or another. As far as addressing the concept of digital racism, again, I don't think that anybody at Google, anybody at Amazon, anybody at Facebook would stand up and say, yes, I am racist and I believe that all of Africa, the entire bloody continent, is inferior. They will never say that. But when you say what role do they have to play, there's only so much you can do to require them to do anything except what they do best, which is to make money on digital platforms. I would like to see them work harder to hire young African programmers, young African philosophers. Google is an amazing company in the sense that they have branches for all kinds of things. It's not just a matter of software and coding. Google does lots of different things, much of the time for the good of the world. But at the end of the day, they're not really looking for the good of the world. They're looking for the good of their shareholders and their bottom line. That's a little unfortunate, but welcome to the world we live in, you know?
Okay. Well, quite unfortunate. Yeah. About, I'm looking right away. What role do you think African governments and policymakers can play to combat this systematic racism against Africans or the online discrimination? What role do you think that African governments and policymakers can play to combat this problem? About.
Okay. Thank you, Ugochukwu. One major role the African government should play to help Africans in the face of racism.
Please, let's keep up. The voice is quite low.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, better.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Okay. So I was saying one major thing that the African government ought to do to help the Africans in the face of racism, all sorts of racism, is to grant them self-knowledge, without which we cannot succeed. That's my own personal opinion, which may be right or wrong. Without self-knowledge, Africans, Black people all over the world, there are several systemic ways of damaging the frontal lobes of Africans. There are several ways of making Black people use more of their right hemisphere, neurological right hemisphere, other than using exploiting the functions of the left hemisphere. So we have to put this in balance. We have to put this to balance. Go to America, go to UK, go to Africa. You see how systemically Black people are being formed, are being brainwashed, are being played, to make use of their right hemisphere. That is the reason why Black people, you see them only in entertainment. Most of us, and that's the truth. That's where we do well, very, very well in entertainment. Why are we not in other aspects of life? It's just few of us who are into information technology, who are into AI, who are into STEM, STEM programs. Just few of Black people. Now, how about the millions of Black people who are into entertainment? Why? What is the reason? So that's why I'm saying the government of Africa should help Africa establish academic systems that will build self-knowledge. Without the knowledge of who you are, you cannot succeed in life. You will be at the mercy of other people. You could walk in any country. You could walk anywhere.
You could become the president of America, no problem. But you are working for somebody. You are working for somebody as a black person. Hello, can you hear me, please?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So
We are hearing you, sir.
the
Perfectly.
government,
We are hearing you.
the government of Africa, all the even the word government means governmental, governmental, to govern, to control your mind, to control our minds. So they are in for not allowing the mental awakening, the final awakening of the black people. They are involved in it, and this is the reason why I am saying the one major thing that the African government or any government at all in the world should do to help black people in the confine of its sovereignty is to establish schools, curriculum or curricula that will help or she is. Can you hear me,
Okay,
please?
I think thank you very much, Mr. Shizoba. Thank you so very much. We would like now at this moment we would like to hear from the CEO of TAPS. We want to hear her thoughts. She's not spoken since. We want to hear her thoughts. She's someone that is passionate about this area or that we are discussing about. It would be really lovely we hear her thoughts. Miss Brenda, please. No, Miss Brenda. Miss Brenda, please.
Thank you. So I've been listening attentively, and it's very interesting thoughts that are coming through. Um, I think most of the people here um, are of the belief, and we agree that one day become digital. It is entrenched in the very fiber of. And remember, process drives technology, and process comes from policies that comes from laws. So we are not going to fix the technology when our policies and our laws are still racist. Yes, we've come out of apartheid, we've come out of colonization, but one thing that you need to bear in mind is that we didn't come out of that with the colonizers or all those races wanting to comfortably give away their power. We fight for it. So the reason why I am saying that is talking about just being part of the process and being at the table, for me, it doesn't look like it will solve the problem. It is what is it that we are doing when we are sitting at that table? What is it that we are doing to enable the people that need to change these policies to make sure that they change? Whether we like it or not, and if I speak about South Africa specifically, yes, we've come out of apartheid, but the fact of the matter is the economy is still sitting on the hands of the very 9% of the population that were racist towards the majority in the country. Therefore, because they didn't give away their powers willingly, chances of them to ensure that it is fair, to ensure that it is ethical, to ensure that it benefits everybody are very, very slim. Because, as it has been said, their focus is on lining their pockets. So I'm not saying that that's how it is. What is it that we need to do to ensure that we change the status quo and we start to participate in this thing called democracy? one of the things that I think to change the way things are, we have to be very intentional about how we're going to change these things. A policy, if we're talking about the law, we need to understand what we are trying to achieve by putting that piece of paper together. Is it achieving the fair? Is it achieving the ethical? Is it achieving our intention to stop the discrimination that comes through the process into the technology? We are definitely not at the mercy of technology. Therefore, we can change those processes. There wasn't a lot of talk about where we are in terms of infrastructure that enables us to participate in this digital economy. Africa, where it is right now, unfortunately, we might want to do these things, but we are not able to do these things because we do not have the resources to do it. If you look at the different African countries, there's a lot of people that do not have access. Therefore, most of the things or most of the data or information that they could get by having access to these things, they don't have. In the schools, that digital technology, technology training that you're talking about, it is available, but for only a few. You still have a lot of people living in rural areas that do not have access to these things. So, how do we, as African, and the people outside of Africa who are interested in seeing humanity advance, and I'm intentionally saying humanity because we have seen in the past that disadvantaging one race might end up being a disadvantage for the global community. How do we all work together, collaborate, partner to ensure that we enable the people that needs to make that change to turn that wheel faster? What is it that in our capacity we can do? For example, with TEFs, the programs that we are running, are we just going to sit there and use and give the student end user computing and come back and say we have given them education? What are the type of programs or educational programs that we have at basic education, at higher learning? And what is the reasons why we have programs designed like that? Is the end product exactly what we're looking for? Is the end product making us competitive in this world? Intentional and want to be part of the solution in that it starts with us. We cannot always be an example of that. Where powerful people will only have to say 3 words, and all of a sudden there's negative perception about a certain country, a certain tribe, a certain race. So how do we stop that thing? How do we call those things out? The algorithms that have been, programmed are biased towards Black people. What are we doing? In South Africa, we had a case of the banking system where one of the top banks, their system in such a way that Black people's interest rates will be higher than any other, than white people, for example. But people to courts to make sure that it is redressed. So what I'm saying is that it requires active citizenship. It requires us pulling together. We cannot do it on our own. We need to be realistic about the collaborators. We need partners. We need to all have an objective that says this thing shall be done right. And it's not going to be perfect. And it's going to take a long time because this thing is entrenched, how the systems are run. but it is doable. We thought we couldn't come out of apartheid or colonial, yeah, the English is gone. Colonial the same thing with this. We can ensure that whatever we put into those algorithms is fair and is not biased. It'll be biased to be realistic about that, but at least we can start shaping young people in Africa that are interested in technology, that are innovative. Let's use that talent for the benefit of our communities. Let's work together to make sure that it happens. Those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, our incredible CEO. The point is valid. Let's get together to solve this. Thank you so much. So I move on to Gabriel. Please, I want to ask for students what role digital companies can play to combat this problem. So I want to ask you this question. How can technology companies be held accountable for addressing racial biases, I mean, systematic racial biases in their algorithms and products? Let me repeat for empathy. In what way do you think it's best to hold technology companies accountable for addressing racial biases in their algorithms and products? For example, there has been complaint that many people are due for Facebook subscription, whether for the Bluetooth verification or whatever. But they are not due, Africans mainly, are not due for monetization. So, in what way do you think it's best to hold these technology companies accountable for the systematic racial biases in the algorithms and products? Thank you, Gabriel.
Okay, thank you very much. If I can get your question, you say how can we hold technological company accountable based on the output of their algorithm as it relates to satisfaction of people or thereabout. If I can get to where that is what I can pick from your
Let me address it
question.
once more, please. I said,
Okay.
holding them, how can we hold them accountable for addressing the racial biases
Yeah,
in
the
their
racial
algorithms in
biases.
their
Yeah.
products, the racial biases they
Yeah.
built in their products? How can we hold them
Okay.
accountable?
Okay. It's
And I
very.
mentioned Facebook, I mentioned the Facebook, the issue of Facebook subscription being available for Africans, like the Bluetooth subscription and others. But when it comes to
Okay.
monetization, it becomes like going through hell to get to monetize the product and to monetize your account on Facebook in Africa.
Okay. Okay. There are. I can suggest possibly three ways. Number one is to identify those biases and those instances of systemic racism. When we identify it, we make complaints and make it more public, even within the platform itself. Um, if you don't shout, nobody will hear you. So for me, I think first of all is to make noise about it, which involve making complaints that this is what is happening based on the output of the algorithm as it relates to racism in terms that the data it is feeding on, or the data that is used in training the algorithm, is disadvantaging and also marginalizing Africa. So we have to make that noise and make it very clearly and articulate our position very clearly before the technological company so that the technical teams can be able to fix that. So you have to make that noise very clearly because they themselves are out there to make profit. And then if you are a substantial market and that market base or that market segment is making complaint, the company will hear you because they are profit oriented. So for me, as customers, as consumers of their product, and also as users of their product, we have to make noise about it. And if we are a significant a segment of the market, we will be here, we'll be heard. They will hear us clearly. That is the first one. The second one also is when I'm hearing the whole discussion about uh, having representation, because it is when you are represented that you cannot be misrepresented. if you are represented, you cannot be misrepresented. So it is our representative within the, so we have to have a way by our own people grow within the system of the technology company themselves. That itself will also promote our own agenda within that space. So if we have a situation whereby our own people are inventors, are creators, are smart people who can manage corporations, who can lead organization. For example, Google is led by an Indian man, an Indian person. So what is there if an African leads Google tomorrow? So imagine an Africa is the head of the corporation. What do you think an African as a head of a corporation would do for Africa in Google? So we start thinking about that direction. So for me, we also seek representation within that space in terms of its management and in terms of its creation. So if Africans are involved more in the management and in the creation, we can systematically present our voices within that space. So making noise about the systematic or the systemic racism within the corporation itself is a way to go. And number two, also taking a form of, let me use the word, penetrating the corporation itself by we also being part of the decision makers within the corporation itself, whereby our own people are recruited, our own people grow within the corporation, and then we also make that decision that can favor us, favor us. It is part of it. So for me, making noise, calling Google out, and ensuring, or Google or Facebook, as the case may be, calling those corporations out is a way of holding them accountable. We can use all forms of media engagement to do that. And number two, is for us to also grow within that corporation. It's an agenda thing. We can pursue our own agenda, our own creators, our own innovators to be part of that system because they're all there for profit making. And if they can make profit out of us, they can hear us. So that is my own submission.
Beautiful. Wow. That's incredible. Thank you so much. I want to go back to Chizoba because there's something he keeps highlighting when it comes to education and others. So, what measures, Chizoba, do you think can be taken to ensure that digital education and literacy programs are inclusive and combat racial discrimination, both in the West and in African countries? Chizoba, are you there?
I
Okay,
think
please,
he's off, so we can direct the question to someone else. He's off.
yes, for figures, look at this question. The question is what measures can be taken to ensure that digital education and literacy programs are inclusive and combat the racial discrimination both in African countries and in the Western countries?
Ugochukwu, I'm really very sorry, but your microphone is hard for me to understand. Could you repeat the question for me again, please?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me, sir? For
I,
figure, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I'm afraid I'm having a hard time understanding the sound coming out of your microphone.
Okay, let me repeat for clarity. How do you see the future of digital rights in Africa in the ongoing context of systematic racism?
How do I see the future of, I'm sorry, this technology in Africa?
Digital rights in Africa in the context of ongoing systemic racism.
Well, this is something that's going to take over the world. We're going to have to not really look at it anymore as something that happens in Africa or happens in China or happens in the United States or happens in Singapore. This is global technology. And the problem is that Africa is somewhat behind the curve on technology. So in order to take advantage of what I think is going to be a global revolution, and I don't think I'm exaggerating, Africa is going to have to move very quickly to establish itself as a player in technology and to join this revolution without being marginalized. We've discussed the question of systemic digital racism here, there is tendency to marginalize, but it is not per se, I think, racist. I think that it's that Africa has not recently been heavily at the forefront of technology. But that can change. Most of you are probably too young to remember the early days of the internet, say the late 1990s. I was there. And there were huge numbers of companies doing many different things, sometimes amazing things. Google was created in 2000, for example. But nobody really knew what we were doing. It was a brand new world. I almost used the phrase Brave New World from Aldous Huxley. But we didn't really know what was going to happen. And because nobody knew anything really, and nobody knew really what was going to happen, anything could happen. And it didn't matter if you were American or European or African or Chinese. It didn't matter if you were black, brown, yellow, red, or green. If you had the best technology or the best idea or the best method for applying a technology or an idea, you could compete with everybody. And I think that especially with AI, that is again the case. The trouble is that there is such a large amount of money that is going into this stuff that it's hard to match it. I mean, people are paying $10 million, I'm told, for Google is paying $10 million for a good AI engineer developer. That's an obscene amount of money. I'm involved with an AI company right now that would be thrilled to get a $25 million investment. Nobody takes us seriously because that's not considered to be money in the AI field. It's like small change. But we are at a juncture now in human history, in scientific history, where things are growing from nothing, where ideas dominate, where application of ideas can be an end in itself. And I think this is the time for Africa not to say, what can you do for us, but what can we do for you? I hate that concept, but it's really true. There is so much new work going on. There is so many new developments happening. I mean, somebody earlier mentioned something about CRISPR. I remember when I first heard of CRISPR, it was 12 years ago. It was 6 months after the paper was published, and we all thought, this is really interesting, but what's it going to mean? If somebody had said, we can cure sickle cell anemia at the genetic level, I think we all would have been very surprised that that would have been the way to go. Maybe somebody's going to create a better cow that doesn't need as much water and still produces as much milk. Who knows? The point is, we're here in that who knows phase again. And it's time for Africa to step up and take advantage of that. Because when nobody really knows what's going on, anybody can figure it out for themselves. And that is our opportunity.
Wow. Thank you so much. Glory Solomon, can you please showcase some of the questions from the audience to the speakers? Glory Solomon,
I'm
are you
hearing
there?
you.
Please go
Yeah.
ahead and ask something to the audience.
There is a question that is referred to Mr. Chizoba. He was talking of the noise, and they are asking him what kind of noise can one make. The question is referred to Mr. Chizoba.
Okay, I think I was the one who asked the question. What kind of noise? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we are hearing you,
So
sir.
yeah, so the question has been answered, and the answer is that you have to report every flaws, every insights, any kind of flaws, any kind of racism you see on Facebook, on Twitter, X, on LinkedIn, on TikTok. You have to report it. But for me, that doesn't truly solve the case. I see things from a different perspective. Reporting racial,
attitude, reporting racial incidences may not really solve the case. When you make such noise, just like it is called noise, it is noise because
Your
when
voice
you
is
make
quite low,
noise,
Mr.
you
Chizoba. Your voice is quite low.
Can you
Your
hear
voice
me?
is low. Yes, please put it
We are
down.
hearing you, sir.
Okay,
Your
so
voice breaks before, so we are
oh,
waiting for you to connect back.
can you hear me better now?
We can hear you now. Yes,
Okay,
we can hear
so
you clear now.
Much
okay,
better.
so when we say we
Keep
have to
speaking,
make
we can hear
noise,
you.
when we say we have to make noise
The
is all
network is
about
down.
reporting the racial incidences that we are seeing on the internet or on or every platform. But that doesn't truly solve the case. When you say, let's begin to make noise, let's begin to report any kind of racism we see online, digital racism, that will not solve the problem because we are also reporting our sentiments to people who are the founders of those social media platforms. So that doesn't solve the case. That doesn't solve the problem. What solves the problem for me is building our own technologies, not just building our own technologies as Black people all over the world, but we have to as well educate our people to begin to um, have them used in their phones. I don't know if any of you knows about an app that came out some years back, um, called Afro app. The Afro app, just like Facebook, but how many of Black people used it? There was another app that came out last 2 years called Kedo. The name is Kedo. It was programmed by somebody from the eastern part of Nigeria. The name of the app was Kedo. We refused to use it. Black people refuse to use it, and that is where I am speaking on. It's not just making or producing technologies. Yeah, we can do that. We can come together to do that, to make our own technologies. We can do that. We can always do that. We can come together to produce our. But how can we get our people to make use of those social media platforms produced by, invented by their fellow Black persons? Because generally speaking, our Black people have self-hate. That is the area I am coming from. Everything that all the speakers said is okay, is correct, but it has an error for me. For me, the error that it has is that we cannot succeed as a people. I am coming from. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
So building of technologies is good. I always advocate for that. I am an advocate of that. I subscribe to that. I have spoken with some people about it. I have been in talks with some people about it. How do we come together to produce our own technology, our own social media platforms? How do we do that?
Wonderful, wonderful,
Black
wonderful,
people,
Mr. Brian.
black
Can we,
people, it can be verified on Facebook, on TikTok, but difficult to be monetized. Why? That is systemic racism. You can easily monetize a white person, but they cannot easily monetize a Black person. But the Black person can easily be verified because you are paying money. They are making money from you. So when we talk about coming together to build our own technology is one thing. Another thing is the usage. Another thing is how do we get our people to begin to, have these things in their phones and have this self-love to use this. And that takes us back to self-knowledge. Our Black people have been made to dislike everything coming from themselves. We love everything coming from white people, and that is the mental programming. that has occurred for more than hundreds of years, for centuries now, and that has gone deep inside the bone marrow of Black people. So what I'm trying to say is that building our technologies is one thing, which is good, which I love it. We can come together and do that. But another thing, how do we get our people to accept our innovation? How do we get our people to come and do what? And make use of what we are about to invent, all our inventions, because an average Black person prefers to buy a shoe from Italy rather than buying a shoe from Nigeria or from Ghana. We prefer buying, we Black people prefer buying something or any kind of goods or commodity from any European country because of the brainwash, because of the mental delusion that that is better. Everything coming from Black community is
Thank you,
evil.
Mr. Chizaban. Can I say something then? Hello, Mr. Chizaban.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right,
the
okay.
first is valid. Yeah. But I want to move on to Professor David Bowden. She made a comment that says that yes, we should make noise and discredit the technology. When Mr. Gabriel spoke about how we should amplify our voice. So I want Professor Gladys to share her thoughts on the importance of amplifying African voices and perspectives in shaping the future of the digital world.
Yeah. I'm listening, to this conversation, and it's, really interesting, and especially what I just heard about, feeling that Black people don't want to buy products from Black people. But I'm gonna be honest with you, a lot of times when some products are made, if there's no face attached to it, if it's a good product, I really don't think that that really matters. And I'm sure you have people who have preferences, for different things, whether it be something European or what have you. I definitely think that there's some people need to shift their mindset as well. However, but a lot of times when people are in business and if there's no face, you don't even know who it belongs to. If it's a good product, I think people buy into it. I'm not sure what type of platform that was that, I know it was a comparison to Facebook or something, but was it as good as Facebook? That's the question as well. Was it good? I don't know. The person who created it could have been, but did they offer the same features and everything? You see what I'm saying? So I'm not so sure that I agree that Black people don't want to buy from their own people. I'm sure that that's could be across the board, but I definitely think that how do we amplify our voice? Well, we get involved. That's the first thing. And like I said, I really believe that we shouldn't be depending on anyone else to improve our situations. And I understand there is a need, but I truly believe when you put something into the universe and you decide that that's what you're going to do, it's going to get done. And you may not know how it's going to get done, but it will happen because opportunities, once you start putting the work in, opportunities will come in front of you that you never ever expected, or someone will come on your path that can help you get to where you want to be. So, that's my thing. We know that I believe that systemic racism does exist, but that doesn't stop me from pursuing what I want to pursue. And I think, like someone was saying early on, that you have to look at it from that perspective. We have to get beyond that and we just have to make it happen. How it's going to happen, I don't know. But I can tell you one thing, by having the conversation, that is a start. Okay. And, just because we're talking, we're not just talking about Africa, because we know that there are some hurdles to surmount. There are some big hurdles. But the fact that you're collaborating over, across around the world, global, I think that makes a difference. I'm a part of an organization here on Facebook called the Happiness Tribe, and it's a global group of us, from London, from South Africa, from Texas, from Canada, all pretty much global. And let me just say, what we're doing now is we're trying to get refurbished laptops to send to Africa. Okay, so we're reaching out to. I have a connection in Namibia. I'm talking with her to see how we can, get these laptops over there. I'll be going to Africa myself in the beginning of August. I plan on bringing some laptops with me. So we can't be concerned about what can. We have to think about what can happen. And I truly believe if you put it out there, it's going to happen, and you just don't know how that's going to happen, but it will. So I think this is a great start. And I think at this point, it's great to talk about it, but then you have to have some actions behind it. And like I said, and that's what me and this other organization, the Happiness Tribe, that's what we're doing. And we're trying to figure it out, because that's what you have to do in this society today. We live in a society where you have to be flexible, you have to be adaptable. Things are changing so rapidly, and so my thing is, you have to figure it out. That is my phrase that I tell my students: figure it out, because that's the world in which we live right now. So we amplify our voices. That's one thing, but we need to be doing. We need to be doing and making it happen and finding ways. When you have these type of connections and you're connecting with people around the world, you need to be reaching out to find out how, because you don't know who they know or what they can do for you. So I suggest that's how you amplify. And this is a great start.
Okay, wow. Thank you so much, Professor. But let me move on to Professor Annie Daniel. From your profile, I found out you are the national coordinator or founder for Black Cat. Um, I saw it in your profile there. So I want to ask you, yeah, founder National Association for Black Veterinarians, which I know, of course, should be like an NGO, right? Am I correct? Unmute yourself.
Okay. Could you repeat that? You said that
Yeah,
started
I
this.
said from your profile, I saw that
Mhm,
you are founder National Association for Black Veterinarians, which
mhm.
I presume to be an NGO, right? You
Uh,
said non-government organization.
yeah,
Is it an NGO?
I used to work at a veterinary school, and I saw a need. I had some very racist. I suffered a lot of racist biasness, discrimination when I was in that position, as well as the students. There were only 3 Black students in that program, and I decided, and I think it could be a good model for what you want to do. In Africa or Nigeria, whichever country, or you could start in one country and expand to other countries. I knew that this work to increase diversity, increase the number of Blacks in veterinary medicine was something that I could not do by myself, that I needed a coalition of people to help me. We started off with 2 chapters. Now we have over 25 chapters in 25 different universities across the country, and in the Caribbean as well. So when you look at technology and the challenges that you're having, I heard several people talk about the lack of technology and the robustness of the technology that you have. I really think that if you could, you could start technology clubs across Africa, getting young people interested in technology and getting those that are trained in technology to work with those students to start thinking outside of the box. Um, you have an app. I heard somebody talk about an app that you had, and that Black people don't use that app. It may be that sometimes you have to go outside of your boundaries. Introduce that app here over here in the U.S. Blacks in the U.S., we love to support other Black people. We do. So, and not just Black people. If you think about TikTok, which they're trying to do away with here in the US, if you think about TikTok, it's a wonderful piece of software. Everybody loves it. And they didn't know, and they still don't care that there's some connection to China with that software, because right now they're trying to go and create a law to ban it from the United States, but people are really rallying behind TikTok, and they don't want that to happen. So your technology, if it's good, like Professor Gladys said, people will come to it, they will use it. But sometimes we don't have the resources to market our technology the way that the way that it needs to be marketed to get global recognition. So having the funding, but then that comes also with collaborating with people. So the more people that you can collaborate with outside of your country, outside of your area, is a good thing. You know, universities have resources, especially here in the U.S., to collaborate with international companies, organization, and you know, it's a lot of resources here in the U.S. that you can use to help to develop your technology to expand it to be a global technology. So just look for resources, look for people that you can collaborate, try to develop a coalition of people, try to train the young people to get involved and interested. If you don't have the technology that you need, you have a technology desert where there's no technology or there's a lack of technology. Collaborate with people over here in the U.S. We love to fix things and make things work. This organization that I have, I didn't wait for the government. You know, filing with the EEOC and filing the discrimination lawsuit helped, but sometimes you can't wait on the government. Sometimes you can't wait on corporations. You have to develop and create your own. And sometimes you have to just start with whatever resources you have, work from there. And you know, right now I know a company that revamp and ship and give technology away, different computers, printers, all kinds of technology. So if you let us know what your needs are, we could probably connect you with the people that have the resources to help you to do, you know, do what you need to do as far as creating a stronger technological space. Because like one of the other speakers said, it is global. Technology is global. You know, they might have walls up. You know, I teach in countries where there's firewalls that keep you from getting to your technology back here in the U.S. that you wish you could get to, because that's where all your resources and all your materials are. But you know, you need to have a system in place, and you need to have a plan, strategic planning, and then develop a plan, develop a system for implementing that plan, and work your plan, review your plan. I'm teaching my lecture now, and then go back and what worked and what didn't work. You have to do that. If you don't strategically plan, then you really are planning, but you're planning to fail. So you have to be very strategic in what you do, how you do it, the people that you incorporate into supporting you, and getting the system done, getting it built. There's a lot of resources here in the US. We would love to partner with you to do that. I have a son that has a degree in technology, and that's what he did for corporations. He built systems. So, you know, if you have somebody that want to collaborate with somebody who has done things at the corporate level, he's the one to do it, and he would love to connect and probably know people that have resources that can help you get to the next level, because that's what you need to do. You need to start collaborating and partnering with as many people as you can. And I can tell you, my organization would not survive unless I had those corporate partners. And I can tell you, I don't look at the color of the skin. I just look at the people's heart and their need to want to support us. And they look at our mission. They they want to support our mission, and and a lot of times give us the resources that we need, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to do what we do without those partners, collaborators, and the resources that they have that we don't have. So there's a lot of people who would help, but you have to have a strategic plan that you can present to them and show them where you are and where you would like to be in 5 years, 1 year, 2 year, 10 years down the line. So having those strategic plans and having collaborating with people with the resources to help you institute those plans is key. Okay, and I ramble a lot. You can tell us professors, we like to just talk and talk and talk. Did I answer your question? I probably did all that rambling and didn't even answer your question.
All right. Thank you so very much, Professor. That's a quite interesting answer. It's very elaborate, and trust me, there's a lot to learn from this session. I would like to. Okay, I want to speak from my experience. I am preparing for my postgraduate studies, so I wrote a paper on building a model using machine learning. And one of the things, this is a general question. So if you have an answer, I would love that I would love that you answer the question for us. Oh, so sorry. I would love that you answer the question for us now. Do you think, or do you feel that modern technology are instinctively created with bias? Do you think modern technology are instinctively created with bias, or is just a matter of sheer ignorance? If we are to look at the past 5 years, AI, artificial intelligence, literally has been taking center stage, gradually eroding static technology. We are literally in the phase of Web3. We now read, write, and own our content online. Do you think these technologies are instinctively or deliberately created with biases in mind? If you have an answer, please, I would love to hear your thoughts.
Okay. You're talking to me now. Professor Daniel, you're talking to me.
No, this is an open question. I'm not just talking to you. If you have an answer, you can give to us, and I would love everyone to speak from both a level of experience and from an educational standpoint, so we can have a balance.
Yeah, yeah. I really don't. I don't think people set out to create a technology that is biased against anybody. I think there might be holes in the development and the research that exclude Black people from being a part of the conversation and the development and the research of the technology. And when this happens, you have a lot of people in the room that look alike, they kind of think alike, and they omit those challenging discussions that need to happen, courageous conversations that need to happen about what it is they're doing. I wish my son was on here, because he has lots of experience developing software, and he can tell you some of his experiences. He did have, at one of the corporations that he worked for, he had to develop a technology for them. And he did speak out against it, because that technology, I don't know if the people got together outside of their conversations with him, but the technology was going to target people lower in, the people that was in the corporation at the lower level, and they were going to all lose their job. And most of those people were Black. So I think technology is evolving and changing. I also believe that it may look sometimes like people are being discriminated against or because of technology. Because if you think about AI is going to put a lot of people, I hate to say this, but it's going to put a lot of people out of jobs, because now you can get the AI to do almost anything that somebody in an office setting would do, except get you a cup of water, a cup of coffee, or a glass of water. But AI can do things so quickly, and it can do it so well that a lot of people are going to lose their job. So, do you think AI was developed with that in mind to, make a lot of jobs, office jobs, obsolete? I don't know. That's a conversation I guess we have to have with the creators of that technology. But it's interesting. I think people can use technology in such a way that it creates a biasness, or it can discriminate. So, and it's how they use the data. Sometimes it's the data that you collect from it. You can do whatever you want to do with the data. So you can use that data to discriminate, or you can use that data to um, fill in gaps that are present. If you run data and you see that you only have 5 Black people, you may want to say, okay, based on our data, we need more diversity. We need to include more
Oh,
people. So it just depends, and I don't want to ramble on. Let somebody else.
oh, all right. Now, Mr. Paul, can we hear your thoughts on this subject, please?
Yeah. As far as displacing people in jobs, that's always the case with new technology.
Mm-hmm.
But new technology also creates new jobs.
Mm-hmm.
The automobile was notorious. Everybody said, "What about the farriers, the guy that make horseshoes? What about the stable keepers? And what about the veterinarians, for that matter?" There will be no need for any of these people. They're all going to be out of work.
Yeah.
Well, at least in the United States, the United Auto Workers Union came up. It's like the most powerful union we have. None of those jobs existed. You can say that new technology will take away jobs, but it almost always creates new ones. There was a discussion about whether the computer, not AI, whether the computer would make a lot of people unnecessary. And in fact, it did. It made all of the bookkeepers and the note takers and whatever unnecessary. But somehow or other, the computer industry still employs a lot of people today. And many people are better off than they would have been if their entire job was taking pieces of paper and putting them into filing cabinets. So we can't be afraid of these things. We have to look for the opportunities. It is true that many things that are done today without AI will be done better by AI. I have a dear friend who is about my age. He's nearly 70. He's a diagnostic radiologist, and he spends his days looking at computer screens to read shadows that might indicate that you have cancer or some deformation of a bile duct or something like that. He's been doing this for 40 years, and he's very good at it. But I can promise you, he's not as good as AI will be in 3 years or 5 years. These sorts of jobs, even high-end, physicians' jobs, will be displaced. But for every radiologist who is put out of work because AI can be more accurate at spotting things and be faster at spotting things, there will be somebody else who's out there building a new something, whatever that something might be, and that something might become an industry. I was involved in computers long ago, like in the 1970s. That's where I met the guy who later became the CEO of Google. And these things were so primitive, it was hard to imagine, really, what we had. We didn't have anything like a cell phone. The kind of computing power that you see in a cell phone today would have taken up a whole room full of computers back in 1975. But an industry grew out of all of that. There is always going to be opportunity somewhere. So I don't think we should worry as much as some people do.
All right. Thank you so very much.
And
Would like now.
if I could just say one more thing.
Okay, please.
Technology generally doesn't give a damn where you're from. It doesn't care whether you are are, from whichever tribe or whatever people, whether you're Bantu or Elderet or whatever, it doesn't really care. You build the good stuff and people will use it. So there is discrimination. Yes, I remember a really stupid mistake that I made about 25 or 35 years ago when a friend of mine came to me and wanted me to help him start a company to develop custom software in India. And this was back when nobody thought that Indian software developers could do anything. Now we know that they can do anything. But I looked at this guy and said, John, come on, who is ever going to trust custom software developed in India? And my friend John went off and made a lot of money on this. And I just sat back and watched him enjoy himself. The new stuff doesn't care who made it. It just cares that it's the best there is. And if Africa can do that, yes, then all of a sudden Lagos will be a new center of technology, or Johannesburg or Cape Town, or you name it. Pick a place. I don't care. If you're doing the best work, people will find you because it's so easy. We're all from all over the world. We're talking right now in various different locations. It doesn't matter that I'm not in Africa. It doesn't matter that you're not in California. The best work will be found and distributed pretty damn fast. So do
Perfect.
it.
All right. Now, we would love to hear from Ms. Brenda now. Are these technologies created with bias in mind, or is there something we're missing from the subject in discussion?
This comes back to where it started, where we were talking about whether there's racism.
Can you please speak out?
In conversation back to where we started about digital racism, or whether it exists or it doesn't exist. Like I said before, process drives technology. Technology doesn't come, it comes from a process out. And that process comes from a policy that was made or developed with an objective. And if the objective was racist, the process will be racist, and therefore the technology will be racist. This has got nothing to do with the programmers sometimes, but has got everything to do with the system that is running this thing. So that is why I said we need to go back to who are the people that are enabling this? Who are the processes or the systems that are enabling that? Maybe change it from there. We spoke about representation earlier on. We need to have representation in government. Those are people that are making policies that govern all of these things. How do we ensure that those laws that we have got our best interest at heart as the majority in Africa? How do we ensure that when they are translated into solutions that are implemented, that it still carries the same essence and the same spirit of fairness? And also, when we're talking about we need to invent some things and ensure that we are also represented, I think we need to also be careful that we are not also purporting reverse racism. It has to be about equity. It needs to make sure that, we are not talking about equality when people are 50 steps ahead of us. We are talking about balancing the scale and ensuring that everybody gets their piece on the table. And I think another thing that I wanted to raise that is important is that I think we need to also understand that it's not all doom and gloom in Africa. Africa has invented some of the best technologies you can find in the world. That they are put out there as African invention or not is neither here or there. The fact of the matter is we've got some of the best systems that have been implemented here. There are ills in Africa, a lot of them, but there are also very, very good things that also our global partners and collaborators can benefit if they just looked at Africa with that fair eye. So I think talking back to, we don't trust ourselves, or we don't trust each other, we don't believe in ourselves. Maybe there is something that we need to maybe integrate into the education that we're talking about when we're taking this to the community, when you're educating our leaders and policymakers, when we're talking to private organizations that are running our economies, to say that we have been able to do so many things way better than the so-called developed world. Let's take that and do more of that. And where there are gaps, let's learn from the people that have done it and try to avoid those pitfalls. We are fortunate that in this particular, caught with our pens down, so to say, where we were totally excluded from this economy. Now we have some access to, where the world is going, access to data, access to certain things. We know a little bit more. We are much more closer to things. We are able to, speak to people like this that are sitting in other parts of the world. We can partner, we can collaborate. So it will be easier for us to catch up with where the world is and where the world is going. So let's use that opportunity as Africans to do things better for ourselves, but use it in such a way that it doesn't only benefit Africans living in Africa, it benefits Africans outside of Africa, but also it is an offering that can benefit all humanity. Because if we are only going to think us, also, it's a bit siloed and it might limit us. So I'm just saying that I'm encouraging us to start to collaborate and start to look out for the best thing that we have, or Africa has. Not just Africa doesn't have anything, is disadvantage, all of that. There are good things that can be, taken from Africa. Also, Africa can learn from other continents in terms of the development, and also to ensure that they don't fall into the same pitfalls that they did, meaning that they will learn faster. Totally agree that we need to do it for ourselves. Let's create our own technologies, but don't just create technology based on old systems, old policies, and old processes. Change that to ensure that the technology as well talks to that change, and you are able to be transparent about what you are putting into this technology, and you are able to challenge it when it doesn't give you the output that you had anticipated.
Wow. Thank you so very much. You've broken it down for us. Speaking on this kind of topic is really something that will take us a lot of time, because it's something we all have something to say about it, but we are out of time. We are literally at the edge of the scheduled time. So in 1 minute, I want to hear your thoughts, Mr. Shizoba. In 1 minute, this is not your final thoughts, because I believe we'll have a version 2 of this discussion also. In 1 minute, what is the thing you want to leave us with so that we'll think about it and wait in another session? Unmute
Thank you.
yourself, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. What I have to say is that in the midst of AI and information technology, we have to understand and we have to flow, with the rhythm of the 21st century, and we as Black people, we must have to develop our technologies and get our people to patronize us. But I understand that Professor Annie and Gladys, if I'm not mistaken, Gladys, um, they don't truly understand. I don't know if they've been to Africa before. I was in Africa. I am Nigerian. When I say something, I know what I'm saying. I don't think that Professor Annie and Gladys understand that Africans in Africa prefer to patronize European and American stuffs rather than things from Africa. If you have ever lived in Africa, you understand what I'm saying.
That is a long one. Let's not go there. No, maybe in the next
So
session. Just
please, yeah, I
no,
know,
I
Just,
understand what you're trying to say.
yeah,
You
one sentence, please. One sentence,
okay?
please.
Okay.
So, we must, as a black people, as black people, as a race, we must understand how we are to help ourselves. It is the black people who will help themselves in the face of 21st century information technology and AI. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. That's a sweet one. Maybe in the next session we host something about inclusivity and inclusivity, diversity, and segregation. I think this topic have brought even more topics for us. So, Professor Anne, can we hear your last thoughts on this subject, because this is a multifaceted discussion. But let's hear your thoughts on this subject, even as we round up the session.
The subject of coded racism, racial coding.
Generally, your thoughts on the subject we are discussing right now. What is your final thoughts?
Listening to the last speaker, you have to change the mindset of the people. If the problem is from within, then there's a lot of work that needs to be done within. I've gone to Africa several times, by the way. And I'll be coming back again in the fall. So I hope I get to see you when I do come. But I really do think you need to just focus on how to improve I'm not going to say the system, because sometimes the system will never change. Do what you can do with the resources and the people that you are able to do things with and move forward. You can't stay stuck on what can't be changed. If it's out of your control, it's out of your control. I guess is what I'm saying. Focus on what you have control over and work with those people and work with those resources to keep moving. But just keep moving. Don't get stuck. Move through and look for people you can collaborate. Look for resources. But if the system is, and the reason why I started my organization is because the system was stuck, and people was giving me all these excuses why there wasn't any more Black veterinarians Black people in veterinary medicine. So you have to sometimes put blinders on and cover your ears and don't listen to what other people say. Just do what you need to do to change the system within the resources that you have. It may not be a whole country, Nigeria. It may not be the whole country that you can change, but you can do something and you can make a difference somewhere. And that's all I have to say. Try to make a difference where you can.
Interesting. We just have to make a difference somewhere. We must start from somewhere. It's a very, very important statement you just made. Mr. Paul, barrister, Mr. Paul, please, can we hear your last thoughts on this subject, even as we prepare to round up the session?
Yes. I know that the topic of this symposium is systemic racism in Africa, but cries of racism often mask an inability or an unwillingness to do things, to take advantage of a situation. There is a huge opportunity right now for the world as a whole, and specifically for Africa and Africans, wherever they might come from, anywhere from Morocco to the South Cape. There is an opportunity for Africans to grab the bull by the horns, if you will, let me use the image, and to do wonderful things. But this is the time, not next year, not 5 years from now, when some academic organization has finished training a new generation of African computer programmers, there are opportunities available right now that nobody even understands. Just as a brief example, there's a new kind of job that people are being paid well for. It's a prompt designer, a prompt developer. Essentially, it's a translator, but there are people who are now specializing in giving instructions to an AI that gives a desired result. That job didn't exist 3 years ago. Now, nobody had the clue as to what AI was going to be doing 3 years ago, except perhaps a few people at OpenAI and elsewhere, but the world didn't know, and now there's an entire profession devoted to servicing AI already, like in a year. So there are opportunities here, and there are huge opportunities here that Africa, just like anybody else, can take advantage of. If you're a prompt designer, you may be named Wale Owusu and everybody will think you're from West Africa. But if you call yourself Walter Olson, nobody will know the difference as long as your prompts are the best around. So now is the time. Get out there and do it. And
Get out there and do it. Just start. That is the thing. For you to fight against systematic racism, it's not about you complaining, but rather doing something about it, starting something about it. Now, let's hear a final thought, Mr. Gabriel.
Okay, yeah, I agree with Paul. We just have to do something, and it's time for African to amplify their voices. And to amplify your voices mean that you don't only create an alternative technology that will replicate the same racism that you're fighting. For me, I believe we can build an inclusive world, an inclusive society. When we first of all start to change our mindset from this exclusivist, bifurcating, and dichotomizing mindset that segregate each other, the self from the other. I see such kind of tendency even in our conversation. Somebody talking about self-knowledge. Can you have self-knowledge without the presence of the other? You cannot have self-knowledge without the presence of the other. So you have to see how you can collaboratively work with the other so that you can be able to redefine yourself in the context of inclusivity, not in the context of marginalization, exclusion, and oppression, which is what we are fighting. So let it not be as if we are replacing white racism with black racism. That is where my own conversation is all about. We are humans first of all, and therefore our mindset are being corrupted by the kind of education we receive, which is based on divisive kind of education. So therefore we need an inclusive kind of education that connects who we are, where we emphasize the commonalities of the things that binds us as a people. And if we have this kind of mindset, that is what we can program in our AI. But because we are living a very more competitive world, we're living in a world of dog eat dog, you'll find out that we even teach the computer to behave like us, to carry our biases, and then they replicated, and the same oppression that we're fighting on offline is coming online and going forward. So for me, I think Africans, even though we are fighting, whether you call it white supremacy or call it white racism, it is, if we are fighting it, we should not fight it instead of the way that we want to displace it so that we can become the new lord in town. Rather, we should make it more human. I think that is where I'm coming from. We should make it more human and make this society more just and equitable for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's not, in our search for a solution, create another problem, right? Let's not, in our search for a solution, create another problem. You are fighting systematic racism. Supposed being white racism creates one black racism. So we must strike a balance. That is what Mr. Gabriel just emphasized. We must strike a balance, promote inclusivity and collaboration, not classification of who does this. Let's have our own. There's nothing like our own. There's nothing like black or white. We are all humans first before the pigmentation of our skin that we can classify to be white or black. So thank you all very much. I think the final thoughts will be from our CEO, Ms. Brenda. And on that, we will love to call the session to a close. If there is any other thing we want to discuss, very well, we can then accept it, of which in the next 5 minutes, we'll round up the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the session. I appreciate all the comments and views from different speakers. For me, I think in wrapping this up, at what we've got, which we can build on. Whilst we cannot forget what has led us to the situation that we are in, we need to learn from it and see what we can take from it to be able to move forward. If we work together, if we partner and collaborate, we can go so much further. There's so much benefit that we have by using technology. And because technology is so vast and it can reach so many people in a short period of time, you no longer have that racist that is doing something in the corner. It can be seen, therefore it can be called out. So my plea is that for us as Africans, let's start thinking about how do we change the status quo. For us as global collaborators, whether Africans not in Africa or people that are not of African descent that we were working with. Uh, let's work together to make this world a better place. There's nothing that we've got to benefit by trying to take away from each other. We can do so much better as a human race if we work together. So I think it is doable, and we can do it even better when we do it together. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so very much. So the last word from us, the CEO of TFFDS, is let's not compete, but rather let us collaborate. This is a very insightful session. I've learned quite a lot, and I believe we'll have another deep discussion on this subject again. So thank you all very much for the over 100 persons that have stayed in this live stream, listening to us. We really love to say thank you all very much, but that should not be all. We are inviting you specially to the International Future of Health and Technology Summit that will be starting on October 10th and 11th, 2024, which is a few months from today, in University of Lagos, Nigeria. To get more information about this conference, or you go to conference.taffds.org for more details on the conference. The International Longevity Summit is one of its kind in Africa, where we invite speakers not just relating to health, but we talk about the future of technology, talk about the future of health, we talk about biotech in Africa or the biotech movement. We talk generally about everything that pertains to both global health, but particularly in Africa. We ought not to, we should not, my final thought as one that have been in this meeting is, we should not have the victim mentality, but rather we should have that mentality of innovators, co-innovators. Let me put it as that. We can all shine. We can all be in forefront of technology. We just have to get started. So thank you all very much. I am the technical support for this event, and a very, very warm thank you to my moderator, Ugo Shuku Alo and Temitope Glory Solomon, that have actually stayed these 2 hours, 30 minutes for this session. I want to say a very special thank you to Professor Anne, have stayed to this very moment, to Barrister Paul, that has stayed to this very moment, our distinguished lecturer, um, uh, Mr. Gabriel that have stayed till now, and every other person, our CEO, Mr. Shizoba, the philosopher himself. I think we'll host a very private session with Mr. Shizoba, so he will pour his thoughts for us. And lastly, I would want to also appreciate Professor Gladys and everyone that have stayed to this very moment, that have shared their thoughts. And I hope when we call on you again to have a phase 2 of this discussion, because this should not be a one-off discussion. We would love to also have in-depth session. This discussion have brought about so many thoughts and so many things. Oji, Barrister Oji Ama, we have to say a very big thank you. And Sir Kelechi Deka, we have to say also a very big thank you to you. So we'll call on you after now to have other discussions on this subject. And I believe very well that you'll be there and you'll be available for us. So thank you all very much to our guests that have been online following up this session. Thank you all very much for staying to this very moment. I want to say a very big thank you from the team, the Future Discussion Show team, from the board members, everyone at CFFDS. I want to say a very big thank you and say, if by your time, have the best day. If it's at the night, have a good night rest. Any of them, I want to say a very big thank you. Technology is here to stay. We have to upgrade. Three things: we must be inclusive in our thoughts, we must collaborate, we must not compete. We should not in search of solution create other problems for ourselves. On this note, I want to say thank you. Have the
Thank
best
you,
time.
Victor, for taking all
Thank
of
you
us.
very much.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you
you,
very
everybody.
much.
Thank